So did Joe Biden and Merrick Garland put out a hit on Donald Trump? I mean, were they really ready to use deadly force against a former president? Sure looks like it, and we'll talk about it. Plus, Donald Trump ready to triumph at a rally in the Bronx, but AOC thinks he's going to get a Bronx cheer. We've got men on the street in the Bronx telling you otherwise. Also, Bill Maher really making the rounds. Now he spars with The View and with Megyn Kelly, and it's spicy. That's all coming up right now. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Streaming live at Rumble right now, since it's noon Eastern time. Join us, if you will, in the chat or set an alert for yourself. I don't know why I'm telling you to join us right now, because if you're watching us live, you're already joining us. Just obviously, you're already here. So if you're watching after the fact, why don't you try to come back and swing around and say hey to the crew that watches live every single day at noon. Also, if you're watching any of this after the fact on YouTube or Rumble or X or wherever the hell else they put, honestly, I don't even know. I know we're on our town hall sites, townhall.com, redstate.com, hotair.com, pjmedia.com, and bearingarms.com. If you're watching there as well, leave some comments and swing on over to YouTube and Rumble and subscribe, because as you know, that helps grow the show and build our message. Either way, we're very grateful and we appreciate it very much. Yesterday, news came out that the FBI was prepared to use deadly force on that pre-dawn raid of Mar-a-Lago. Jesse Waters on Fox News Channel lays out all the details. Let's take a look.
Alert, a major bombshell in the Trump documents case. The FBI authorized the use of deadly force during the Mar-a-Lago raid. This according to documents filed by Trump's legal team. Agents in unmarked polo shirts planned to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, medium and large size bolt cutters, and even lock picking equipment as they prepared to go door to door at Mar-a-Lago. And they did, ransacking Melania Trump's bedroom along with Barron Trump's bedroom. The FBI also took extensive photographs of Melania and Barron's rooms for no apparent reason. Think about this for a second. Joe Biden sent men with guns to his political opponent's house and turned their bedrooms upside down. That's never happened in the history of the United States. And we've had some crazy presidents. This was the former first lady and a professional model. These people are sick. And Biden complains about his son's privacy, hunters. He had armed men rummage through Barron's bedroom. The FBI even allegedly had a medic on site in case someone was shot. Trump reacting, quote, "Wow, I just came out of the Biden witch hunt trial in Manhattan, the icebox, and was shown reports that crooked Joe Biden's DOJ and their illegal and unconstitutional raid of Mar-a-Lago authorized the FBI to use deadly, lethal force. Now we know for sure that Joe Biden's a serious threat to democracy. He is mentally unfit to hold office. 25th Amendment. Trump's lawyers claim that the former president's constitutional rights were violated. It was an illegal search and seizure. The FBI misled the judge to obtain the warrant, and the raid was executed in an egregious fashion and in bad faith. Nor was there any basis for the FBI to bring firearms into Mar-a-Lago. What was life-threatening about pieces of paper? The FBI improperly seized Trump's passports, tax and accounting information, and even medical records. Think about that. The Biden administration seized his political opponent's medical records. Who signed off on it?
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
Remember, the New York Times reported that Biden wanted his AG to, quote, act less like a ponderous judge and more like a prosecutor willing to take on Trump. This all came from the top, just like the Jan 6 case, the Fannie case.
Yeah, well laid out there by Jesse Waters and the whole team there on his show on Fox News Channel. Those are the details. And I do want to share it one more time. That's a critically important video, what he showed. And I just want to show the source one more time because this is critical.
There are, however, certain points I want you to know. First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
Yeah. So why is that so important? Well, because that man serves at the whim of the President of the United States. That is a political appointee. He's a member of the cabinet. Joe Biden hired him. Joe Biden nominated him, put him in place. And at any moment, if Joe Biden wants to fire him, he can. We saw that. We saw that with Jeff Sessions under President Trump, right? Trump didn't like Sessions and the way he was doing his job, thought that his hands were tied because he had to recuse himself on the Russian collusion thing. So he fired him and put in William Barr. This man serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. That means anything that he does, he's basically acting on behalf of the President of the United States. So when he says he personally signed off on it, it's like Joe Biden signing off on it. And what exactly did he sign off on? Well, as usual, Julie Kelly, who is reporting on this and investigating it like no other reporter in America, she's the one who actually discovered this little line item in the warrant that authorized the FBI raid. So all of the stories that you're seeing, by the way, about the use of deadly force, it's all because of Julie Kelly, but I assure you she won't always get credit, if at all. She says tons of new unsealed filings on classified docs case. I'll try to post as much as I can. There goes the workout, but this is mind-blowing. FBI authorized the use of deadly force at Mar-a-Lago. We'll blow it up here for you. Number 4, the raid. And by the way, this is actually from Trump's defense attorneys, but they quote all of these documents. The order contained a policy statement regarding use of deadly force, which stated, for example, quote, law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. Now, you're going to get a lot of apologists for the FBI, for the Justice Department, for Merrick Garland, for Joe Biden. You're going to get a lot of Democrats, a lot of never Trumpers, a lot of people in late night comedy shows and what have you, who will say, oh, come on, this is ridiculous. This is standard procedure. Standard procedure. This is boilerplate. Anytime the FBI, anytime law enforcement goes into a private residence to issue a warrant, they have to be prepared to use deadly force. Don't we want the FBI to be able to protect themselves if their lives are threatened? That's standard operating procedures. SOP it is. Well, I'll add 2 more letters, BS. They may be used to just doing a copy paste with their mouse on the Microsoft Word document that has their search warrants and just use the boilerplate and fill in the blanks. But I'm sorry. If the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, personally signed off on this warrant, that by definition proves that this was not a standard case. Nothing about this was a standard case. You know, there's some times where you throw standard operating procedure out the window because of other mitigating circumstances, and this would be that time. And they acknowledge voluntarily that this was not a typical warrant because, as I mentioned, the Attorney General himself signed off on it. How many times does the Attorney General sign off on an FBI raid? I don't think that's a typical day in the Attorney General's workflow. So clearly they knew this was going to be different. So at that point, don't you maybe say, okay, now I know standard operating procedure is we use deadly force and we bring all our guns and we bring all our ammo. You know, the standard days when we're raiding the house of some 70-year-old grandmother who we're arresting because she was praying a rosary outside an abortion factory. You know, those FBI raids, the normal ones we do. You know, our standard operating procedure when we bring all our firearms and our ammo in and we're prepared to use deadly force when we're going after somebody who we've tracked into a traditional Latin mass. Or maybe a parent as he's leaving a school board meeting. You know, when we do those raids, that's when we use the ammo. But this one got signed off on and checked by the Attorney General. He said so himself. You just saw him say it on video. So maybe at some point somebody steps up and says, hey, guys, this is the President of the United States. Maybe we shouldn't have all this standard operating procedure stuff because this is unique. Don't give me the SOP. That's a whole lot of BS. In fact, even the Washington Post acknowledges it. Molly Hemingway pointed this out from this morning's write-up on the revelation. Prosecutors argued that new evidence suggested Trump was knowingly concealing secret documents at his Palm Beach, Florida home urged the FBI to conduct a surprise raid at the property. But two senior FBI officials who would be in charge of leading the search resisted the plan as too combative and proposed instead to seek Trump's permission to search his property, according to 4 people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe a sensitive investigation. So 2 senior FBI officials said, guys, what are we doing here? What the hell? This isn't some traditional Catholic who's praying the rosary trying to save babies before they're born. This is former president of the United States. And, oh, gosh, I know I work for the FBI and we're just supposed to hate him. But maybe we should back off and not have our tickly fingers on a trigger as we're walking in there because he's the former president. Also, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the last time I checked, former presidents have Secret Service details protecting him from harm. You know, if you try to take a shot at the former president, you are going to get shot. So what exactly was the FBI doing here? What was Attorney General Merrick Garland, Joe Biden's little lackey, thinking was going to happen? That we're going to have some sort of shootout at the Mar-a-Lago corral? That Donald Trump is going to stand in the office door with a shotgun in his bathroom saying, government feds, get off my property. I'm going to fill you full of buckshot if you try to issue that warrant here. That's right. That's how Trump talks now. He lives in Florida. He's a Florida man. So there's Trump with his shotgun trying to keep them feds off his property. And then the FBI's been told, hey, if you have to use deadly force, use deadly force. So they draw their weapons. And then, of course, the Secret Service is trained. So they draw their weapons. And now what do we got? A Mexican standoff. It's like a Tarantino movie. So you and I, we were able to sort of play out this scenario ourselves right here and recognize this is probably not a good idea. You got the feds going down early morning with guns blazing, pouring into Mar-a-Lago, and they're obviously thinking, well, what happens if there's resistance? Well, if there's resistance, use deadly force. And nobody was able to sort of pull this thread a little further like you and I just did and say, okay, well, if we use deadly force against a former president, the Secret Service is there, and then they're going to use deadly force against us. We just got a bunch of federal agents with holes in them at this point. Maybe there's a better way. Remember when they told you that the grown-ups are back in charge in the White House? That all those things under Trump weren't normal and we got to get back to normal? Is this normal? Is this the normal they were talking about? Of course, once the FBI got in there, that's when they spread out all the documents on the floor that had been neatly and securely locked inside an office with multiple layers of security. No, they ripped out the documents. They spread them out all over the floor. Then they took those top secret cover sheets that hadn't been on the documents, placed them over them, took a picture and sent it to the New York Times saying, look at all these classified documents this guy had. He's a spy. Now we've learned that they staged that entire photo, including the top secret cover sheets. They brought those with them. And then when they put the documents back in the boxes, they didn't file them properly. So now as Trump is trying to defend himself against the alleged classified documents, he can't even trace back the documents that they're referring to because they're not filed properly. The FBI did all of that. They tampered with the evidence. That's why the Mar-a-Lago case is now on hold indefinitely, because the judges said this is a mess. But they were prepared to use deadly force. This entire thing has been just top-notch federal government work from beginning to end, all under the control of Merrick Garland, who is the sock puppet of Joe Biden. Decency is back on the ballot, we were told. Remember how decent things were going to be? You're not sure this is a big deal? You're not sure that the DOJ is out to get Donald Trump? Well, let's get some expert testimony from this guy. James Comey, former FBI director, you know, the guy that Trump fired, the guy who had a secret investigation of the president and wouldn't divulge it to him because he pretended like he was a Russian spy. You know, the guy who leaked FBI documents through his own sock puppet to the New York Times. Yeah, that guy. What does he think about the election?
If Donald Trump is reelected. I mean, when you think about a second Trump administration, what do you think the implications would be for the FBI?
Oh, serious for the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time. So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all-stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time, but people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American. This election matters. Because of a reason like that, people have to participate. You cannot sit on the sideline. I don't care how you feel about Joe Biden. You must vote for
You must vote for him, he said. We clipped it off at the tail end of that, though. He's terrified. He is terrified because he knows, as he puts it, the bottom of the barrel. If anybody gets in there to actually do the job in the Justice Department in a fair and legal way with full transparency to expose everything that went on his watch, he should be in an orange jumpsuit. That's why he's terrified. That was the fear that you heard in his voice. And boy, the things that they did to try to stop Donald Trump in 2016 and the things that they did to stop him in 2020, just wait until you see what they're going to pull out in the next 6 months. He also said something really interesting there when he said that Donald Trump now knows the power of those organizations, the DOJ and the FBI, their power. He used to be the director of the FBI, and the first word that comes to mind when he talks about them is power. The power the FBI has, the power the Justice Department has. That should give you pause. It's about exerting power, not about doing what's right, not about following the law or enforcing the law. It's about exerting power. That's how James Comey thinks of those agencies. That's telling, I think. Yeah, that's quite a few revelations we've learned about the entity that he helped create and turn into what it's become. I miss the good old FBI. I really do. I miss Elliot Ness. I miss the FBI being, the good guys. I would love to have that back. But what it's going to take is for some huge reforms. And if that means getting Trump's bottom of the barrel in there, bring on the bottom of the barrel. Because we see how the elites are working. If what we've got with Christopher Wray and James Comey and Merrick Garland are the best of the best, the elite squad, and they send the FBI with guns toting and trigger fingers heading down to Mar-a-Lago, authorized to use deadly force if necessary by a guy who's got Secret Service protection, yeah, they're the Keystone Cops right now. The difference is they're the Keystone Cops with power. And as you know, as we've always said, if they can do this to Donald Trump, they can do it to anyone, and they do it to anyone. And for everybody who says that, deadly force, that warrant language, that standard operating procedure, we do that with everyone. That's the problem. That right there. That's the problem. As you know, Donald Trump is facing a trial in Manhattan right now. We're giving you daily updates on that, of course. And both sides have rested. They're not going to do their final rebuttals and final arguments. It looks like the jury's going to get this early next week. So while Donald Trump is in New York, he's going to have a rally. Now, we've already seen him go to Harlem, where he visited that Spanish bodega, where the owner was prosecuted by Alvin Bragg for defending himself and his property, and a mini rally broke out on the sidewalk. He stopped by construction workers in Lower Manhattan with their hard hats, and he got the endorsement from the union. He stopped by a fire department and delivered pizzas. Wholesome stuff, right? Well, tomorrow, he's going to the Bronx, and he's going to be having a rally. And, well, they're already getting ready for a huge crowd. Look at these flyers and posters that are going up all over New York, right? See that? They're putting them up in the bodega restaurants. Presidente Trump in El Bronx. This is great. President Trump in the Bronx. You're seeing the signs all over the place. Look at that. In a community center with the police department logo there. President Trump will be in the Bronx. They've even got a digital billboard up letting everybody know that tomorrow at 3 p.m. when the doors open, Donald Trump will be having a rally in the Bronx. You know what the very best part of all of this is? The Bronx is currently represented in the United States House of Representatives by this woman. That's right. This is AOC's district. Now, she's not actually from the Bronx. She tells everyone she's from the Bronx, but she grew up a little further up in a tony little rich suburb, but that screws up the whole persona of her, in her Bronx accent, acting like she's Jenny on the block. So she was asked, what do you think's going to happen when Donald Trump goes to the Bronx? And in just this 25 seconds, she reveals a hell of a lot, as they always do. When they're confident and arrogant, they reveal a ton. Listen with me and we'll break it down.
By the way, he's doing it in the South Bronx not to make a point, but because he's got court. And the man practically has the legal version of an ankle bracelet around him, and he can't leave the 5 boroughs because he always has to be in court. And so it is truly an embarrassment to him. And I am looking forward to the response of everyday Bronxites talking about how they feel about him coming to their bench.
All right. So first, the first part of that was the revealing part. Do you ever notice whenever, like when Biden accepted Trump's challenge for a debate, everyone says Biden challenged Trump to a debate. No, he accepted Trump's challenge that's been going on since January for a debate. But did you notice they made a little joke at the end? Let's do it any day. I hear you're free on Wednesdays. See, that was a little jab at Trump because Wednesday is recess day for his trial in Manhattan. Do you ever notice the glee, the absolute joy that Democrats, activists take in relishing the fact that Donald Trump has to defend himself against these criminal charges? Right? It's revealing. It's a bit of a tell that they're in on the game and they're in on the joke, that this whole thing, as we know, has nothing to do with the law or justice or enforcing the law or punishing someone for breaking a law. It has to do with politics. So that first part there, it's like he's got an ankle bracelet. He's got a day in court. That's why he's doing it in the Bronx, because he's not allowed to leave. That is her celebrating this political persecution of the man, which is incredibly revealing, number one. But then that second part, I look forward to seeing what real Bronxites have to say about Donald Trump when he comes and shows up in their neighborhood. Well, she doesn't have to wait for tomorrow at 3:00 because we've had some people take a microphone out onto the street and they've shared their findings with all of us on social media. Let's take a quick look here. When AOC says real Bronxites, I'm pretty sure she's specifically talking about people like this.
If President Trump came here to the South Bronx, would you attend the rally?
Of course, I would want to meet Trump. I want to shake his hand. He's the only president that I see that can ever make America great again. He's capable of doing that.
I would love to go to a rally with Donald Trump come, because I'm a big Donald Trump supporter, and I will support him 100%.
Oh, yeah, definitely we're going to show him love. We're going to show him a lot of love, and, like they do in other states. We definitely need to see Trump here.
There's nothing but love for Donald Trump here in the South Bronx, the North Bronx, the East Bronx, and the West Bronx.
So you tell me.
We want Trump to come back. Please, bro. Biden, get out of here, bro.
I would come to the rally and support Trump, because the Bronx need a change, and we need somebody that's really going to help this community.
I would definitely come to a Trump rally in the South Bronx. I like him.
You do?
Yes.
Yes, I will come to a rally if President Trump was to come to the Bronx, and I also would bring other people to come too and support him.
Would Joe Biden get a warm reception if he came to the Bronx?
No, he wouldn't have. And I'll make sure of that.
Thank you, Newsmax, by the way. Great package that they put together there. Hey, AOC, where are you? Yo, baby girl. Isn't that what she calls MTG? Oh, baby girl. I can't hear you. These are your people. These are Bronxites. You said you wanted to see what Bronxites had to say when Donald Trump showed up. So they're letting you know. Which begs the question, why doesn't Joe Biden do a rally in the Bronx? That would be, honestly, AOC should invite Joe Biden for a rally. That would send the message. That would prove to the world how popular he is and how much they hate Trump. Do you think that's going to happen? This woman, by the way, she looks like she's a military veteran. And she also spent some time talking about how eager she is to have Donald Trump do this rally in the Bronx tomorrow. Look, on the face of it, this is someone who AOC represents in Congress right now. Those real Bronxites that she was talking about.
I am extremely proud to be an American. I am extremely proud to say that I will be voting for Trump in November. This will be the first time that this has been brought to the South Bronx. I lived right here in the South Bronx for 15 years, right in the projects. This is the poorest, most depressing, most unemployment, most high crime rate area within the 5 boroughs of New York City. How dare anyone think that they have the luxury of not being able to support someone who is offering them a hand up and not a handout. Trump would actually bring employment opportunities to this community. He will fix dilapidated housing and failing schools. He will create jobs. He will give people pathways out of poverty, up on their own feet to be independent, so they won't have to be like Richie Torres made a tweet this morning and said that the South Bronx would never support Donald Trump because he threatens the social safety networks, meaning he's saying that Donald Trump would end their welfare. We don't want welfare. We don't want welfare. We want jobs. We want fair housing. We want better schools. So our children won't be accused of not being able to know what a computer is. Let's build some brand new state-of-the-art computer labs in those schools. Make the investments into these communities. Trump will be here on the 23rd. And we hope to see a turnout. There's a 3,500 person capacity, and we're expecting to see 3,500 people with an overflow. There needs to be change brought to the South Bronx. There needs to be change brought to the entire state of New York. I shout out my patriots from Albany, from Buffalo, from Rochester. I shout them all out. We need to come out of the closet. There's patriots that are listening to the sound of my voice behind those windows that are afraid to come out of the closet. You need to come out of the closet and let yourself be known and let yourself be heard. We're stronger in number. We're more powerful when there's more of us.
Just awesome. Come out of the closet, indeed. This is somebody who AOC represents in Congress, and that arrogance that she had, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, about, yeah, I'd like to see what real Bronxites feel about this. They take these voters so for granted. For how many decades have people in the South Bronx been dealing with crime and poverty and failed schools, failed neighborhoods, and they're 100% ruled by Democrats, like across the board. I jokingly said Joe Biden won't go there, but the real reason is he doesn't have to. He knows they're going to vote for him, so why bother? What's the point? You know, all of this reminded me of something, and I searched on social media, and I found that somebody else had posted this video. The South Bronx is very significant when it comes to presidential politics. In 1976, then upstart Jimmy Carter, the governor of Georgia, traveled to the South Bronx to make a lot of big promises there about how he was going to help that city. You know, New York City, I think right around then, was on the verge of declaring bankruptcy. And he made promises about how he was going to save New York, and specifically the South Bronx. He promised he would bring 20,000 new housing units into the impoverished area and help the neighborhood out. Well, 3 years later, the former governor of California, Ronald Reagan, was running for president as a Republican. And he, like Donald Trump tomorrow, traveled to the South Bronx. And I'm so grateful for the person on social media. They go by the rubber duck. So this is why we love X. Thank you, Rubber Duck, for finding this video, because I searched for it myself. This is great. This is 15 minutes worth of Ronald Reagan. We're only going to watch a clip of it. And you'll see he's got a little security detail, but this was not a rally. He was just standing on a corner in the Bronx in the middle of what looks like bombed out buildings, because that's how devastating it was. And in some cases still is. And watch him talk about the failed promises of Jimmy Carter and the Democrats, and watch him engage with the people of the Bronx.
Chill out. I came here because almost 3 years ago, President Carter came down to this very spot and he announced a great plan for building houses for 27,000 people, building industries to provide jobs, really taking care of the entire thing, about $1.5 billion plan. It is 3 years.
What are you going to do?
Wait a minute.
What are you going to do?
It is 3 years and nothing has been done.
Program by the South Bronx.
We know
The
that.
plan,
It's written everywhere. We
please,
got
wait a
nothing.
minute.
What are you going to do for us?
Listen, man, I'll get there.
But you don't need a speech. Just tell us, and we'll be happy. We go home.
All right. Now, that was almost 3 years ago, and today the president blames the local officials, the mayor of the city, and others, and says they called it off.
What are you going to do?
Well,
what are you going to do for us? No riots, no nothing. Just tell us.
right now in Congress is some. I'm trying to tell you. I am trying to tell you that I know now there is no program or promise that a president can make that the federal government can come in and wave a wand and do this. Yes, there is legislation in Congress, legislation for cooperation between government, between the private sector, and using tax incentives to give the people who will take jobs, the people who will come in here and build businesses, that will give them an incentive to come in, because they'll get a tax break while they are putting those businesses and getting them established to provide jobs. Now, I support that kind of legislation. And I've got a record as governor of California in which we didn't try to do things by the government route. We used the people, and we got jobs for the people in the private sector, the kind of jobs that have got a future.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing to watch? That was 1980. Ronald Reagan just standing on the corner, and then voters within 6 feet of him. That one woman shouted back, and he starts screaming back at her. I'm trying to tell you, shut up. But my favorite part of that entire thing, where he says Carter came down here, he made all these promises, broken promises, never did anything, didn't fix the problem. But then he gave them the real medicine that they had to hear, which is there is no government solution. The government's not going to wave a magic wand and fix this. This is why we loved Ronald Reagan so much. This is why I am who I am, because I was a kid watching Ronald Reagan as my president. That's what they needed to hear. It's only going to get fixed when you've got private industry having an incentive, a profit incentive, to come in here and do something to fix it. The government is actually going to make it worse, which they did, and they continue to do. By the way, as we think about Donald Trump and his rally in the South Bronx tomorrow and what he might say, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, because, listen, we know how voting is now. It's a lot different than it was in 1980. But that year, after Ronald Reagan showed up on that street corner in the Bronx, well, that November, this is what New York looked like on election night. Ronald Reagan won New York that year by about 2 percentage points over Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. Excuse me, and John Anderson. I don't think Trump's going to win New York. Don't get me wrong. But I think everything that he's been doing in New York and in Manhattan and all the media he's been getting while they forced him to be in this trial, I think it's been gold for him. And if the rally tomorrow is as impressive as I think it's going to be, and they're playing it smart, they haven't booked Madison Square Garden. It's not a football stadium. It's a little 3,000, 4,000 seat arena, a little theater place. It's going to be overflowing. It will be packed. It will look like a triumphant rally in the Bronx, something that Joe Biden just can't do. I'm not saying he's going to win Manhattan or the Bronx for that matter. It might have a ripple effect up into New York. He might make New York closer than it's been. Let me just say this. If Donald Trump can make Joe Biden and the Democrats spend time and money in New York to protect it, forget about it. If Joe Biden and the Democrats are forced to spend time and money in New York so that they don't lose, to shore up that state, it's over. It's just freaking over. And if that's the case, if that happens, the one thing that AOC said that was correct is that he's doing this because he has to be in New York. He doesn't have a choice. If he ends up making New York competitive and they got to spend time and money there, it will all be their fault. Their entire plan to politically persecute him using the legal system will come back right in their face. And it's going to be, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if that were to happen, it would be pretty great. All right, yesterday we told you about Bill Maher on the Gutfeld show at the Fox News channel. He made his way through all of the hot spots yesterday, from The View to Megyn Kelly to, I think, the Tonight Show. He's got a book. But he's also an interesting guest to have, and he engages on things political and social in a funny, entertaining, but serious and rather intelligent way. So that makes him a good guest. And when he was on the Gutfeld show, as you saw, he sort of took issue with some of the positions that Gutfeld and some of the other conservatives on the panel had. Well, when he went on The View, he took issue with the positions that those ladies had. Now, right before he came out, Joy Behar said this about Donald Trump and about Trump supporters.
Exists on the right.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it.
Yeah, even Whoopi knows. Well, listen, I appreciate Joy Behar for saying it out loud. I've been telling you this. We've been doing this show, for 8 months now? And I've been saying it on my radio show ever since Trump came on the scene. Whenever they call Trump Hitler, understand what they're really saying. And they call Trump Hitler and a racist and an anti-Semite and a xenophobe and all of those other things that they call him. They do it all the time. You know, Orange Hitler. Every time they say it, what they're really saying is you're a Nazi. If you like Donald Trump, if you support Donald Trump, if you vote for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is Hitler, then that means you like, support, and vote for Hitler. That makes you a Nazi. That's what they're saying. And at least Joy Behar actually said it. Good for her. The problem is, it's bad politics. Bill Maher, unlike Joy Behar, has a brain. And so that was how the stage was set before Bill takes the stage. Now, let's watch the segment.
But it struck me that in the first segment, you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected. Yeah. So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words migrate.
Why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know. Want to call it the super far left? But don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right. Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a joke. But,
Too dark.
It's funny that didn't get a laugh. I understand when Bill Maher has to say things like that, that's his price of admittance. That's the toll he has to pay to be allowed to sit at the table. You see, I'm not allowed to sit at that table because I wouldn't say anything like that. But Bill Maher, he has to feed the beast a bit, right? So he says, well, I hate conservatives. I hate those guys too. Don't get me wrong. I hate them as much as you do, right? And then the reason nobody laughed when he said, I'm old enough to remember when conservatives were the ones who hated Jews is because there's no truth to it. See, to be funny, there has to be an element of truth. It's not true. Conservatives have never hated Jews. I wouldn't call them a conservative if they do hate Jews. Now, listen, are there people on, I guess, what's described as the far? I never understood quite how Nazis and fascists and Klansmen were considered the right or conservative. Because Nazis and fascists are actually big government people. The S in Nazi stands for socialist. Okay, fascists use the power of the government combined with industry to control the country. Conservatives are constantly trying to take power away from the government. By definition, it is impossible to be a fascist and a conservative, right? And whatever. It's the reason that there was no laughter is because it wasn't funny. Are there people who are not liberal who also are anti-Semitic? Absolutely there are. But they're in no way the danger to the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel the way the left is, the wokes, as he's calling it. You show me anyone who has hatred for Jews or the state of Israel who's a conservative, and show me any kind of actual influential voice they have compared to, I don't know, every single college administration, or at least 85, 90% of the college administrators and leadership on our college campuses right now. All of the intellectuals who protested over the last several months on behalf of Hamas, the terror group, the people who are chanting a chant that would eliminate the Jewish state of Israel. I think that's a lot more influence and power. They're way more dangerous than anyone you could show me on the right who hates Jews. But that's fine. Bill Maher had to make his joke. Nobody laughed at it. And now we really get into it.
If I had any doubt that I was right about the change that's happened in the left, watching people protest for a terrorist organization like Hamas.
I think a lot of us were disturbed to see terrorist flags being waved on American college campuses, but some who seem to be embracing a terrorist organization over the nation of Israel. What do you make of this moment? What do you think it's a result of? How do we fix it?
It's astounding to me that they can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. If you're for Hamas, live in Gaza for a day. Trust me, you would go running and screaming and begging to live in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. Women have no rights in this place, and a lot of majority Muslim countries around the world. There is no equal rights as far as speech, dress, opportunities for education, reproductive rights, freedom from sexual violence, freedom from sexual harassment. You throw around the term apartheid. There is a gender apartheid in a lot of the world where women are second-class citizens.
Are you at all concerned about innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and murdered, children and women? And are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
Because it's a war, and they were attacked, and they're defending themselves. This is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization that they want to commit genocide on the Jewish people, on the state of Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means. They've attacked Israel 5 times. They've started 5 wars since they were given that land back. And they took a lot of money that they took from the international community, and they spent it on bombs and guns and building tunnels. I don't know how to do that, and you don't know how to do that. I assume the Israeli... Of course, everybody is, but that's what happens in a war. Here's a way to stop that. Stop attacking Israel.
A little bit more of this, and we will watch it. But Sonny, do you notice how Sonny Hosted actually doesn't have a response to the litany of human rights abuses that all of those Islamic-centered countries, Sharia law countries, engage in? All of the stuff that Sunny Hostin says and claims she cares about on a daily basis. Rights for women, reproductive rights, which I love that euphemism, gender equality, LGBTQ issues. He goes on that litany, and all Sunny Hostin can respond with is, well, are you concerned about the loss of civilian life as a result of this war? And I got to get, again, I'm not a huge fan of Bill Maher, but I just love the fact that he looks at her and says, it's a war. People die in a war. And he's right. There are two simple steps that can be taken that will save all of those innocent lives that are being lost. Hamas surrenders and they release the hostages. What really gets me about this clip, and the reason I wanted to share it with you, is if you think about this TV show, this ABC News show, I want to remind everybody, when Barbara Walters first created The View, it was controlled and operated by the daytime television sector, the people, same executives who were in charge of game shows and soap operas, right? And then a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, they moved it over under the umbrella of ABC News. So this is a news show. This is an ABC News show. We've been watching this for the last 7 or 8 months since October 7th. That's the first time the audience of this show just heard that opinion, just heard those facts. They never invite anybody on who will say this. The only reason they got Bill Maher on is because he's a liberal comedian. But if they ever bring on a political figure, it's somebody who's screaming about ceasefire now and Bibi is a fascist. So for 7-8 months now, the View audience on an ABC News show has just heard Hamas propaganda. And the audience applauded, by the way. They sure did.
Calling for the annihilation of Israel and all the Jews. They're calling for the annihilation of the Jews. And so you can't really defend that on the other side very easily.
But before we go, I want to say...
No, we're not going anywhere yet.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing, as we were talking in the break. Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said the thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that all... as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him as a clown who says crazy things.
They saw Hitler like that.
Right. Okay. But that doesn't mean, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It is half the
I have some in my family. I don't think they're Nazis.
Okay, great.
I do like that they... honestly, what a gracious man and generous he was to help Joy clean that up, but it didn't work because we've seen enough of Joy Behar. In fact, another little moment with Joy Behar happened that I really want to share with you, because this does tell you everything you need to know about her, about that show, and about how they go about, again, I want to remind you, presenting a news show. This is ABC News. Joy Behar works for the ABC News division, and this is how she engages with topics on this news program.
Well, you have this new book out, and, I watch your show all the time, so I know that you're a comic, but you basically go after Trump and Biden, both of them, and a lot of people are not happy with you about that. I'm
not equally.
Well, not equally, because that Trump is doing more dangerous.
Of course. I mean, I don't think anybody was more out front on that danger than I was. I was talking about how he was never going to give up power long ago, when everybody was laughing at me and said, you smoke too much pot. And I said, I smoke just the right amount of pot. Because plainly, I was using the term slow-moving coup before he was elected the first time.
That's right.
I said, this guy is never going to concede power. It's impossible to imagine him going, I lost.
Yeah, can't do it.
That's just not in his nature.
All right, so again, this is who Bill Maher is. As we said yesterday, he's not a conservative, so stop thinking that he is. He hates Trump, and he, these are his opinions. This is what he has to say to stay on the View panel, by the way, also, and to get invited back. So again, typical, we're used to it. And also, by the way, Bill Maher, when he said, I used the term slow-moving coup back in 2016. Yeah, because Bill Maher was all in on the Russian collusion thing. He still never really sort of made amends for that. Okay, so this is not a Bill Maher stand show over here, but we're pointing out exactly how he's able to draw out, because he's in friendly territory with these lunatics on The View. He's able to draw them out, and they expose themselves because they think they're in a safe space. So now that you have me responding to the ridiculous nature of what he just said about Trump and conceding power and all that BS. I mean, please, you know how we know that Donald Trump will concede power if he loses? Because he's not in the White House right now, you morons. Anyway, watch what Joy Behar now reveals to the world.
But I'm nervous about saying anything against Biden because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously. But
I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility. I do. I mean, my bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is true.
Right.
That's. Right. Yeah. Okay. And look, Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
I know.
But Trump doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. He's cadaver-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Well, here's what I said. Like when I came back after the strike in September, I said he should get out because he's just lost the faith of people. It's not fair. He's actually done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But I said he's going to be Ruth Bader Biden. That's the term I used. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She stayed too long at the fair.
Yeah.
I remember Obama had her over to the White House, like in 2013, to hint, hey, spend more time with the grandkids. That would not be a good idea, Ruth. And she didn't take the hint, and she was not in good health, and she stayed too long, and she ruined her legacy and got the Supreme Court now to be a pretty right-wing organization. Said Biden shouldn't do that. But, ego, he's Dracula. He has crossed oceans of time to be here, and he's not going to give it up now.
Will you lead me kind
I've got so much to say about this, and we do need to wrap up this segment. But let me just say this. First of all, there's Joy Behar saying, I am afraid to say anything critical of Joe Biden because I don't want to influence people who might be on the fence. So even if it's true, even if it's news, even if it's factual, she's not going to say anything about it because she's not in the news business. She's not in the analysis business. She's not in the commentary business. She's certainly not in the comedy business. She's in the business of helping Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's what ABC News is presenting every day. And to Bill Maher, again, we repeat what we said yesterday. It's not Joe Biden's age that's the problem. I love Joy Behar, but his mind's okay. His brain is fine. No, it's not. He can't pronounce words. He can't remember anything. It's how he dodged a federal indictment over the classified documents case. Joe Biden's brain is mashed potatoes. We can't say it enough. But there's one other thing here, and we'll wrap it up. This whole mythology of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what an icon, but she ruined her legacy because she stayed too long. Obama tried to get her out, and now Biden's going to do the same thing. He's going to ruin everything because he stayed too long and he's going to lose. Look at how the left views these people, these heroes of theirs. They're champions, right? They're saints. They're iconic. Joe Biden will always be a hero to them because he beat Donald Trump, or we're told he beat Donald Trump. Certainly, under the rules of that election, he was declared the winner. We'll leave it at that. But they'll love him for that forever. And they'll always love Ruth Bader Ginsburg for what she did. But it's tarnished because she stayed too long. They view these people as tools, as instruments. Their job is to deliver for us the power that we will use and retain. And the second you are no longer capable of doing that for us, you are useless to us. And you must go. When you're a liability, you're done. We cut you off. Up until then, you're wonderful. It's sick. They're sick. They're the left. All right. Bill Maher also showed up on the Megyn Kelly show. And, well, that wasn't quite as friendly because, well, Megyn Kelly is not a brain-dead liberal like the hosts of The View. And she and Bill Maher actually got into quite a few different disputes. And, well, sadly for Bill Maher, many of those disputes had to do with just basic facts. And as you see a couple of these segments transpire, you will see that Megyn Kelly actually knows the news, actually knows the facts involved in major issues involving politics in America today. And even more revealing, Bill Maher just doesn't. He doesn't know the basic facts about what he talks about. And so he's got this platform, he's got this show, he's got this power, and he's got an audience that thinks he's fantastic. And meanwhile, as Megyn Kelly reveals here, he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. And I think this is probably indicative of most people with high-profile positions in the commentariat or the entertainment business on the left. Watch this.
Course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She, first of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate president.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
Okay. I mean, she conceded the election. Whether you're interpreting her disappointment at losing it as the same thing as Trump not conceding it, I don't know if that's where you're getting it from. But again, it's a tremendous false equivalency. You could ask Hillary Clinton right now who won that election. She will tell you. Donald Trump won the election.
Now she knows she has to because of what Trump has done.
She came out that night in her dark purple suit and conceded the election.
Correct. And then spent the next 4 years trying to convince us it was not legitimate.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
It's just fantastic. And it's absolutely 100% accurate. And it shows you that Bill Maher's got really strong opinions. And he'll tell you his strong opinions. And he'll even make fun of you for disagreeing with his opinion. But he doesn't actually know the facts that would support his opinion. So if the facts are wrong to support his opinion, then his opinion's got to be wrong too. And yeah, I love how Megyn Kelly comported herself there and handled it. And by the way, this whole thing, I love the splitting of hairs now. And let's just get the facts out since we're dealing with facts. She came out before the sun rose the next morning. No, she didn't. It was like midday when she finally conceded the election. She sent out John Podesta the night of the election when it was over, but they refused to concede. They regrouped and tried to figure it out. And if you read the book Shattered, there's a book called Shattered. It's written by two political insiders. I think they're both reporters for Politico. I can't remember their names right now off the top of my head. But they were embedded in the Hillary Clinton campaign throughout the entire thing. The book Shattered was supposed to be this incredible triumphant story of the first woman president. See, Shattered was meant to describe the glass ceiling that Hillary Clinton was going to shatter. Now, when they actually told the story of the Hillary Clinton loss in 2016, Shattered took on a new meaning because their souls were shattered that she lost. And the entire hopes and dreams of the women in America were shattered because of the victory of Donald Trump. But in that book, they talk about the week after, like days after the election, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, they met and tried to say, well, okay, what the hell happened? And they decided right then and there that it was Vladimir Putin. They created the Russian collusion narrative in that meeting. I kid you not. In fact, during the next clip, I'll try to pull this up if I can. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but it's 100% in the book. I've read the book twice already. And they determined in that meeting that the explanation as to how they lost the easiest election that they've, I mean, what was the New York Times claiming on election day? That she had a 98% chance of victory and she lost? The only explanation was Vladimir Putin and Russian collusion. So this whole mythology that she, oh, sure, you know, she wasn't happy about it and she thought that the Russians tampered, but she did concede. She wasn't a denier. Well, what you just saw, that clip, she kept saying that over and over again for the next 3 years, that the election was stolen, number one. And number two, behind the scenes, she and her little trained flying monkeys in the FBI and the Justice Department worked every single day through illegal leaks to the media and eventually through the special prosecutor's investigation, Robert Mueller's investigation, to undermine that president. So sure, maybe he's in the White House, but he's illegitimate, and we're going to do everything we can to undermine everything that he does. Now, if Bill Maher is telling us that that's the better way to go, rather than saying, hey, I don't think this was on the up and up, well, that's a hell of a position to take. But to suggest that Hillary Clinton's behavior after the 2016 election was the noble approach is to be just ignorant of reality and history, which, as you will see in these other clips, it appears to be the case. It appears that Bill Maher is, in fact, ignorant of what, not just history like in the long term, but recent history that he comments on a regular basis. Here's the next example.
I think on January 20th, 2025, he'll show up at the White House, whether he's invited or not. And I don't think that's going to be good.
He's gonna bomb in if he lost.
Yes. Oh yeah, bomb is a word I wouldn't even throw around lightly.
Oh, stop it! He's not going to do that.
Right, like there was never an attack on the Capitol.
Oh, I hear you, but he's not going to show up at the inauguration.
Like they didn't show up at the Capitol and break windows and knock down doors and kill cops and chase.
They didn't do that.
And they didn't break windows.
They didn't kill
down
cops.
They of course did.
No, they didn't.
Who did? They died of natural causes that day?
Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, the medical examiner, has determined that he suffered 2 strokes and died of natural causes.
Yeah, nobody died that day.
Cops?
No, not true. Who?
Okay.
Who?
Oh, I don't remember the names.
They didn't. There was Brian Sicknick, who died later after the fact.
She remembers the names. Brian Sicknick is the name of the cop. And yes, he did, in fact, die of natural causes. This whole mythology. Now, the only thing that Megyn Kelly got wrong there was when she said nobody died as a result of the January 6th attacks. That's not true. One person did die. Her name's Ashley Babbitt. She was shot by a Capitol Hill police officer on Nancy Pelosi's detail, and no charges were ever pressed. She was shot through a closed door, through a window, in the head, by a police officer who was actually reprimanded for leaving his loaded firearm in a bathroom at the Capitol negligently. That was the cop who shot Ashley Babbitt. So yeah, no, somebody definitely died on January 6th as a result of the events of January 6th. It just wasn't any of the police officers. Sorry, Bill. But it's, again, another indication that Bill Maher really doesn't know what he's talking about. And this is what always amazes me about people on the left, like Bill Maher, is that it's the ones who have the strongest opinions who actually don't know the facts at hand. Bill Maher doesn't just have strong opinions, but he sardonically ridicules anyone who is on the other side of his issue. Sure, he engages in conversation and he'll, and he doesn't hate you, but he'll mock you. He'll tease you. He'll think you're stupid. And meanwhile, he doesn't know the basic facts at hand of January 6th. The other thing that always interests me about this, the way this conversation goes, take a listen one more time. This idea that what happened on January 6th was, he says, they showed up and they did this and they did that. Who is they exactly? They really do believe that and I'm not a fan of what happened on January 6th. I wish it hadn't happened, because I do think that conservatives and Trump supporters in some small way, because of the events of January 6th, have lost the moral high ground when it comes to talking about the violence of the left. I mean, the comparison is not even close. The number of riots and arson and vandalism and deaths as a result of left-wing violence through the BLM riots, as well as any Antifa encounter, it's astronomical. It's 1,000 to 1, literally. But because January 6th happened in real time, before our very eyes, on live television, in broad daylight, and at the United States Capitol, it is magnified times 1,000,000. And as bad as it was, and as destructive as it is to conservatives' moral high ground to be able to accuse the left of being the one to employ violence for political means, there's still this fake mythology that the left has built around it, that this in some way was Trump's army. You heard Maxine Waters the other day saying that they're training in the hills right now. Right? She believes that there are armies of MAGA hat wearing January 6th insurrectionists who are going through basic training somewhere in the hills to come and take up arms and seize control of the nation if the election doesn't go their way. And that's what he's done. Listen to him again, the way he describes the events of January 6th. They'll do this and they'll do that, as if there's this underground militia that has grown and is in coordination with the Trump campaign. I truly do believe that they think that. If you watch Morning Joe or any show on MSNBC, that's how they talk. Listen.
I think on January 20th, 2025, he'll show up at the White House, whether he's invited or not. And I don't think that's going to be good.
He's gonna bomb in if he lost?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Bomb is a word I wouldn't even throw around lightly.
Oh, stop it. He's not going to do that.
Right. Like there was never an attack on the Capitol.
Oh, I hear you. But he's not going to show up at the inauguration.
Like they didn't show up at the Capitol and break windows and knock down doors and kill cops.
Isn't that fascinating? I don't know anybody. And listen, you just heard me. I have criticisms about January 6th, as we all should. But I don't know anybody who actually just thinks that that's what happened. That January 6th was some sort of planned, organized, they showed up and they did this and they did that. But this is what the left has created with the January 6th subcommittee and the televised hearings and the most expensive Justice Department investigation in history, and on and on and on. They have created this boogeyman. Because here's the thing. If you can't actually argue with and defeat your political opponent on a fair playing field with the facts, then you create a political opponent that you can defeat, that you can box into a corner, that you can paint like a monster. If your opponent isn't a monster, then you warp reality and turn your political opponent into a monster. Because then anybody who agrees with your opponent, if shot through your lens or the lens you've created in the media and the pop culture, then that person who agrees with your opponent is actually agreeing with the monster you've created. Not that that monster is really a monster, but since you've created it and no one's able to destroy that illusion, then that's how you win. And that's what the left does. That's what they've been doing. And I do love Megyn Kelly's attitude here. She's not rising up in any sort of emotional anger. She's oh, well, that's not going to happen. Oh, shut up. That didn't happen. Come on. No, that's not true. One more. Megyn Kelly engages with it. He says, she goes, I've seen your show. You agree that the border is a disaster. How in the hell can you vote for Biden knowing that?
But you bypass the immigration question. I mean, like that.
I'm not
a lot
bypassing
of
it. I think it's a disaster.
How would you put this guy back in there for 4 more years to leave the doors open?
And like it was so much better under Trump?
Yes, it was better under Trump. Are you kidding me?
It was somewhat better.
Oh, Bill.
It was somewhat better.
Go look up the immigration rates.
Yeah, I know.
Illegal immigration rates.
I agree.
For 2020, for 19 to 20.
I'm not defending Biden on immigration. I don't understand why it's so difficult in this country to stop people coming through the border. I don't. And I watched that 60 Minutes piece they did on it a couple of months ago, and they had films of people coming through this hole and the border patrol just watching them and basically waving. I don't understand why. I don't understand why this country can't accomplish something like that. It doesn't seem like it's impossible. But so many things in this
That's what's so aggravating. We can accomplish it. We can stop what's happening at the southern border. We just won't under Joe Biden. And he keeps pretending like he has no agency on it, but he does have agency. There are a lot of executive orders he could do, just like Trump did. He won't. And you know why? It's because of the people who use the word Latinx, who are trying to lecture him that it's not humane to enforce our borders.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Of course, that's 100% true. And I love the way Megyn Kelly put it. Good for her. The same people who use the word Latinx, those are the ones. And Bill Maher had to agree. Again, this faux, gosh, we seem so incompetent as a country that we can't do anything about it. It's fake. He can't be that naive. He can't be that dumb. Everybody knows that the border is a disaster. And what's wrong with our country that we can't get our crap together and fix it? We can. Of course we can. But every time somebody goes up and says, okay, no one's going to be allowed in. We have a closed border. We're going to enforce it. We will turn you away. We don't care if you're claiming asylum. If you want to claim asylum, you do it in Mexico or you do it in your own country. But you do not sneak across the border. If you are found, you will be arrested and deported. If we find you in this country and you've been here illegally, you will be deported. Anytime any politician ever says that, going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, they have been called racist. They've been called xenophobic. They've been called hate mongers. And the left, Bill Maher's buddies, have put roadblocks at every step of the way, either through the judicial system or legislatively, to keep the deportations from happening and to keep the border from being secured. And he must know that. There is no possible way that you can be as intelligent as he appears to be and not know that. So I am done with this whole fake, well, yes, of course the border's a mess. Immigration is a complete disaster. I just don't understand why we can't get it together. Whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House, we just can't fix this problem. I'm sorry, but I have to say, complete and total bull. And you know it, and he knows it, and I know it, and everybody knows it. At this point, if you were saying the border's a disaster, immigration's a mess, but I just don't see why anyone can fix it, why can't we fix this? I've got to think that you know the facts, you're lying, and you're just posturing because you know yourself that there is no excuse for it. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with Bill Maher here. Good for Megyn Kelly. Nice work. Boy, we've got a lot of Bill Maher this week. He's selling a book. What can I tell you? Kevin, can we get Bill Maher on the show?
Yeah, I'll send him a note, see what happens.
I'm pretty sure at this point he'll go to the opening of an envelope. It's an old joke we used to tell in the theater business. Oh, there's that person again at opening night. Oh, he'll go to the opening of an envelope. That's it for today. We'll be back next time, same place. Thanks for watching. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.